Hello. Sorry to interrupt. Just a quick second. Can I give you a cool sticker?
Oh,
This is Andrew Yang.
yeah.
Do you know? Okay. Did you know his math hat means make America think harder?
Oh, I didn't know. I
All
didn't
right.
know that either. I remember that. Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen that, but yeah, not true that. Yeah.
It's true, right? And it's actually working. You know, the thing is, I think he says that Americans are actually really smart. It's we never thought it was cool to be smart.
No, we've been dumbed down.
Yeah, yeah, we dumb ourselves down.
Yeah.
You know, because you know the
Well,
media.
you can get by and be dumb. Eh.
Right. Yeah. So I think he's like waking up the latent, suppressed intelligence of the American populace
Yeah.
by making it cool, by putting it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are calling his campaign the revolution of reason. So that was on a podcast with Eric Weinstein.
Okay.
Yang is a really good podcast. Every one of his talks is like a TED talk because he's a true intellectual. He's a technologist. He's a
It's
humanist.
entertaining to listen to in the last debate.
Yeah. So you saw that whole thing. Yeah. That was a rush. I love that one. I, did you guys hear like they might cancel it because of the impeachment? Like, because all the senators might need to go to the impeachment hearings. It's a big.
Here's where the senators go.
What's that?
Here's where the senators go.
Yeah, I mean, they said that if the debates don't happen, the senators, with the impeachment, you mean? Apparently, there's more. There's like the next trial, like the House impeachment and the Senate trial. Right.
Mitch was just going to pretty much barrel it through with no more witnesses, with no more
Uh huh.
questions.
Trying to do what they did with Clinton, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, he just wanted to get it through, have a vote, and move on. So
Yeah.
not really divulge anything else.
So what Yang would say to that is like, Trump is not the problem. Trump is the symptom. Like the sneeze is a symptom of a flu, and if you get rid of the sneeze, you still have the flu. And if you impeach Trump, you still have the problems that got him elected in the first place, right? Which is mainly the economy. Do you guys?
Economy's bad now?
Well, the economy's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
The economy is good,
that's great.
and we're towards it to be but it is not good for other people to just scratching to get by.
Yeah. So what's the top two issue on your plates, on your minds?
Well, immigration for now, for me,
Uh-huh.
because I've got a daughter now, Mexican.
Okay.
And they've been moving on immigration for 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, and I think international and the American
Foreign policy, like for our perception on the international stage, right? Yeah.
because that has gone too far.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so do you want to hear what Yang has to say about that, the foreign policy part? So that's one reason I really like Yang is because he wants to take us past like a zero-sum mentality on the world stage where we feel like the only way the U.S. can win is if everybody else loses. Like the way we approach the China issue is like we're stuck in this competitive, antagonistic, like tunnel vision where we think China has to lose for U.S. to win. But he wants to switch us more to like we cannot lead the world by domination anymore. People are catching up, and it was never a holistic thing to dominate the whole time. We had to move towards from antagonism to collaboration, to realize that all of the human race is connected. Because the two big challenges coming up are global, not national, but global. Global warming, and also the fourth industrial revolution. It's already decimated American manufacturing jobs, which is why Donald Trump got elected in the first place, because those jobs were mostly lost in the swing states. And Yang was like, he looked at the data, and he saw that when people are thrown under sudden economic distress, their IQs literally drop by 13 points because they can't think about anything else but their next meal and the next month's rent. Survival. Like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Survival's at the bottom. And yeah, and people struggling at that level become more susceptible to tribalistic rhetoric, which is why Donald Trump's message galvanized so much support. What I love about Yang is he's able to see the root cause, the true like root cause of issues, where people are saying, racism is bad. Yes, it's bad. Identity politics is bad. Yes, it's bad. But there's a deeper issue that racism is exacerbated by economic stress, is exacerbated by scarcity mentality. If every American believes that there's not enough to go around, then it's only natural to want to like band together and exclude others and try to get stuff for yourself. But if we switch to an abundance mentality where everybody's a shareholder in our growing economy, that can relieve a lot of that tension.
That's why we give $1,000 to everybody that's over 18.
Yep.
Where's he gonna get that money from?
The money he will get from here. Well, being
Oh, okay.
well, this is just a flyer, but it's not printing money actually. It's a recirculation of money in the economy, because right now our economy is growing by.
It's kind of like socialism, isn't it?
Well, he would say that it's capitalism that doesn't start at zero.
I'd
It's
say it's socialism.
yeah, and you can put whatever.
That's why I'm opposed to it.
Okay. Well, so let's think. So he wants people to think harder about the labels that we choose to label these things
The
with.
normal average American can they think? Can they do they really what I think?
Well, we have to
That's the
encourage
problem.
them to.
They're not thinking hard
They
enough
they don't want to think.
to make America think harder.
So let's say it's the dichotomy of socialism versus capitalism, right? Capitalism works when people have money to spend, right?
You have to want to work to earn money.
Yeah.
And
So
that's the problem. Some of these people don't want to work.
Well, but you have to have the opportunity.
yeah, you have to have,
There aren't enough opportunities.
There's lots of jobs open.
and also what the
See, that's just
Yeah.
it. They
It's
don't
true.
pay a little bit.
That is true. So there's a fine line between paying enough and having the owners make enough money to survive too. I mean, you can't pay everybody $25 an hour.
Well-
Every organization.
The business either has to cut even, has to either just have an even debit and credit.
yeah. So I like to think about it. I like to think about it from the bird's eye view level. If you look at our overall economy, we have never been richer. We are producing at $19 trillion every year of GDP and growing. But the problem is we're growing by automating technology, automating. We have self-driving cars and trucks coming up, self-checkout at every store, malls are closing, robotic drone delivery of your Amazon packages. So we're set to lose about 30 to 50 million jobs in the next, right.
I mean, that's
Well-
not happening today.
Well, actually
To a large extent.
right, so,
You do have 10 cars running around that are automated, but I mean, you don't have millions of trucks driving themselves.
but soon there will be. And the timeline
20 or
is,
30 years, yeah.
right, well, if you,
20 years.
so it's 10 to 15 is what a lot of the economists are saying out there. And if you think about that, that's one presidential term, 2 presidential terms, right? One
I
president,
can count, yeah.
right? Yeah, I sometimes trip myself up on arithmetic, but yeah. So one thing is, even if people want to work, are there going to be opportunities, and what kind of opportunities, right? And
But I
yeah.
worked as a social worker back in the 80s
Mhm.
over in Boone County.
Okay, that's great.
There were
Yeah.
lots of people who did not want to work,
Mhm.
just wanted to go to the system for a check.
Right. And the thing is, because if they start to work, what happens to their benefits?
Yeah, they don't get it.
Right. So that's an incentive to not work.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing.
Especially because the jobs are not paying enough to make the difference between.
So they have to work a couple jobs as well. Or else go back to work or go back to school. And there are
Costs money too.
Yeah, but there are opportunities. There don't have scholarships. They have ways.
There's ways, but you have to be very savvy. You have to be very on top of it, and it's not a lot. Like it's limited, right? And only the most savvy manage to walk the maze that get them the benefits. And once they get the benefits, if they get a job offer, they might lose the benefit. So it incentivizes people to not seek work. Is our current social benefits programs do? The welfare trap, is the big label for it. So the difference with this is, I heard it said that welfare pays people to not work, and UBI pays people to work at anything they want, to do anything. They'll get paid no matter what. So
So they can sit home and watch TV all
this is
day.
true. Yeah, and if they were to do that, because they're already doing that, right?
Yeah.
So, but if they are having, um, but at least it doesn't incentivize them to do any less, like the welfare system currently does.
So you're just gonna give them 1,000, you're not gonna give them food stamps.
So certain programs don't combine. So food stamps will not combine with uh, what Andrew's calling the freedom dividend. Um, so if you elect the freedom dividend, you have to give up your food stamps. So that's one way of consolidating welfare programs into something that's more efficient. Because the freedom dividend is very low bureaucracy, very low overhead. Because you don't need a bureaucracy to say, okay, you deserve money, you don't. You make too much money to deserve a handout, but you can get a handout. So that creates a huge bureaucracy of people who need to judge people on their, worthiness to receive benefits, and that tends to be like a really demeaning process for people to go through. So there's no judgment here. It actually makes everybody the mentality of a shareholder and beneficiary of the overall economy, so that people don't have to fear innovation anymore. Because if I were to know that, okay, any innovation that happens in the overall American economy, I'm a beneficiary of that too as a citizen, then I wouldn't fear that innovation. But as it is now, when we innovate, I might fear, oh, I'm going to lose my job. So there's an environment where we are fearful of innovation, and that's just kind of a sad thing, because humans are such innovative creatures. Right? Yeah.
About like that, or fearful innovation.
Well, certain people, a certain
Who are at risk of losing their livelihoods. Right? So, and that's a large swath of entry level. And the next wave is going to be white collar jobs too. A lot of medicine is being.
nursing should, yeah, it's gonna change.
Right.
Like, my job, probably won't exist anymore because it could be.
I agree with you. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
We do need
So
more doctors, we need more nurses.
yeah. So
We need more
certain
care centers.
there's like an analysis. There's four categories of jobs. Anything repetitive, even if it's white collar job, like writing contracts. It's a legal thing, but that's very very automatable by artificial intelligence, and that will be automated in the next 5-10 years. Um, the only things that are not automatable are things that are not repetitive. So ironically, like plumbing is hard to automate because it requires a lot of every project's a little different. Um, but anything like cardiology is automatable because cardiology you're comparing X-ray films. Doctors like look at X-ray films and look. Oh, is that a cancer or is that not?
Criteria.
Yeah. Yeah, and AI is overtaking human doctors on being able to spot cancers from an X-ray film. So a lot of like if you look at medical schools right now, nobody wants to specialize in radiology because they know in the next 5-10 years that's going to be automated. So yeah, it's going to start impacting more and more of the population. And what I want to say is that this could all be a very positive thing. Where we're actually headed for over the next 100 years, technology is going to be so advanced that we're going to be able to live kind of like a Star Trek society where we have 3D printing. We can print our own steak. You can 3D print a steak. So we're going to have so much capability that we can start to live in a mindset of full abundance. Um, but right now, as we're headed, because all the money and value is getting stuck at the top, concentrated in corporations and billionaires, it's just not access and capital are not evenly distributed amongst people. And that's what Andrew kind of wants to do is tweak the economy so that the common person is a beneficiary of all these innovations. whereas right now it's only the big companies that benefit. So his idea is called human-centered capitalism, and his other campaign slogan is humanity first. If I can find some of those stickers. So he is for a. Oh no! So he loves immigrant. I mean, he's a son of immigrants. His parents are researchers that came from China, from Taiwan actually, and he was born in upstate New York. Um, so he would just be like a living symbol of a successful immigration um, story. And what he wants to do is provide a path to citizenship for dreamers. I think I don't know the details of the plan, but he has it laid out on the website. Yeah. So
What about the rest of them who come to America for a better life?
um, so I mean, like I think symbolically, like he will just tell that story just by being who he is, a son of immigrants, born and raised in Schenectady, New York, as the only Asian kid in the white community, and coming from that background and then becoming the president of the United States. Right? It's just, his parents were his father or his grandfather was a peanut farmer in Taiwan, I think, and but his parents came as graduate students and studied at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and were researchers. His Oh yeah, his father owns like 50 patents with IBM. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, Wang is, yeah, he's up there.
yeah. So he's very
The only
pro.
way he can afford to live.
Yeah, his net worth is about 2 million. It's a little lower than Bernie Sanders. Um, yeah, Bernie's a little hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars worth of value for other people through his nonprofit. He ran for 7 years of his career. He ran a nonprofit that was fighting the brain drain that went from America's top schools to greedy endeavors in Silicon Valley and Wall Street. He wanted to funnel young minds and intellectual capital into the Midwest that were decimated by automation. So his nonprofit was a startup accelerator that groomed and cultivated young entrepreneurs to place them in Midwestern communities. And his story is that he created hundreds of companies and thousands of jobs in the Midwest.
So what state? In Iowa or in
I,
Wisconsin?
Michigan, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah, he writes about it in his book. I don't know exactly, but Iowa, I think, is included in the places he's touched. Um, yeah, so he would say that, at one point he recognized that he started creating thousands of jobs, right? But for every 1,000 jobs he created, the overall economy is going to lose 10,000, 100,000 jobs because of automation. So he's like, right now, as good as I'm doing, like he was named the ambassador of entrepreneurship by the Obama administration, and champion of change by Obama himself. But he's like, I'm getting all these accolades, but really, if you look at the numbers, I'm pouring water into a bathtub that has a giant hole in the bottom because of this fourth industrial revolution that's happening at the global level. So that's why he decided he needed to run for the presidency. And his message is poverty and you starve. He wants it to be the other way around. Markets and the economy should serve people. So he wants to realign the incentives, and the universal basic income is part of that program. He wants to start measuring things like, instead of just measuring GDP and stock price, we should be measuring health outcomes, educational outcomes, um, yeah, like wealth inequality, upward mobility, all those things. He wants to create what's called an American scorecard. he wants to present that at every State of the Union address. How are we actually doing in terms of our happiness? More holistically than just, oh, GDP is great. Because if you think about it, a hurricane coming through increases the GDP because we have to start rebuilding things. So it's not really a good measure. So that's the whole thing about thinking harder. It's like we have these measures that we're following, but we're following it off a cliff. We have to have better measures. And once we create the American scorecard, we can then start to tie economic incentives to those scorecards. Like if you notice of a company that's doing well for the environment that they're in, doing well for the communities, maybe we can give them a tax break. So to encourage people to do positive things that are holistic through the workings of capitalism. That's why it's called human-centered capitalism. Yeah. Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Oh, thanks for listening.
Yeah, I've seen your booth down here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've seen him on TV. I watched the debates a few times.
Yeah.
He's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has the most fun on the trail.
Yeah, and he has a handicapped child.
Yeah, he has an autistic son. Yeah. So I made these flyers. If you scan any of these 2D barcodes here, with your phone, it'll take you to a YouTube video.
Okay.
So yeah, Karen Hunter is a great one. It's a rather new one. So yeah, if you hold your just phone camera up to it, should pop right up. Yeah. Thanks for listening. This has been a good conversation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for going around. And all the
Yeah.
time you spend, maybe.
Yeah, come visit us. We're right next door. Yeah. We'll probably be around here at lunchtime almost every day.
Well, I'm
So.
glad to see that you guys are hanging in there. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Did something happen in Ohio? Did he not get his?
Oh yeah, it was some technicality. Like he got 3 times the number of required signatures, but for some paperwork reason he didn't get on the ballot. Yeah. Yeah. So
He'll probably make it up.
yeah, he's doing like a write-in campaign now.
Oh, is he?
I mean, it just kind of goes to show our political system's like super clunky and not responsive to our needs. So.
I was sorry to hear that because he's really trying hard. And being an Asian American, I think that he's really good.
Yeah.
I just think
Yeah.
I think he's a good candidate.
Yeah. There's an Asian comedian that's like, we need an Asian president because Asians are the only objective referees for America's racial problems. And I thought that was like pretty funny. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Like he likes to play with positive stereotypes like math, right? That's another place where I think he's just out of this world, like different from any politician. He's able to acknowledge. Most politicians stay away from, identity or like racial complexes, but he addresses it head on with humor, with levity. He's able to play with America's identity complexes. 44.
And what has he ever held a job in government before?
Nope. Even though he was ambassador of entrepreneurship, like it was never an official government title. So he's a political outsider. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's more of a.
Even like Mayor Pete.
What's that?
Term limits.
I think he wants to do term limits for Supreme Court justices of like 20 or so years, something like that. He does want term limits, but I don't know the exact. Yeah, you'll have to go to yang2020.com to find those details. Yeah. Is that something you see we need? Yeah, he's definitely for it. Yeah. Oh, the other thing he wants to do that's cool, I think, is ranked choice voting. So instead of voting for one person, you rank your favorites from like 1 to 10. So that'll change the psychology of voting altogether. Where if you feel like you can't win, then you won't vote. But if you just rank in terms of preference, that's how we do our Oscars. Okay, the Oscars are ranked choice voting. And
I don't think too much of the Oscars. So.
yeah, I mean me neither, but I do feel like it's a better voting system. He also wants democracy dollars, which is to give every American $100 to donate to any political campaign, and that'll increase political engagement. Because if you think about it. So it'll wash out. So it's hard to ban lobby money because when you ban it, they'll find another way to sneak it in. Right. So what the democracy dollars tries to do is it'll it'll eclipse, it'll overpower lobbyist money, because $100 into the hands of every American times 300 million, it'll wash out lobbyist money by a factor of 8 to 1. So it amplifies every individual citizen's voice. Because if you think about it, how do you participate in politics? To donate to a campaign, you have to have disposable income. And a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, so they don't have any way to support their candidate of choice. So giving them $100 each, they have a lot of power there that's amplified, plus the universal basic income. So yeah, a lot of innovative policies, and it's like, if you just think like the design principle is put humanity first. Huh?
He has a lot of good, maybe he has a lot of different ideas, but how hard is it going to be to implement all these ideas?
That's a great question, and
because they are so different, and you can see how there's gridlock and
right.
you can see.
So his other slogan is not left, not right, forward. So because of that, he's already pulling over a lot. I personally know like 24 Republicans that are registering as Democrat in California this year to vote for this guy. And if you see over here, he has an interview with Ben Shapiro, who's a very strong conservative pundit, and he won him over in that interview. It was really fun to see. Past couple decades, right? The oil money, right? Yeah, he would say over here it says technology is the oil of the 21st century. So as oil revenue retreats, technology revenue is increasing, and if we can somehow tap big data, artificial intelligence, all those things that are automated in our economy, this technology can be treated like, it's just value that's self-generated, kind of like oil. So that's the analogy there. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the conversation. I'm Levin. Yeah. I'll see you guys around. Yeah.